Okay, so today's bookmark works just rows that we turn back and forth, and we're going to start with a chain 15 and then 3 more. That last 3 will count as the first double crochet of the row. So it's a total of chain 18 to start with. And to start out at the very beginning, we just do a slip knot. So I lay my yarn down with my tail on the bottom and my working yarn towards the top, wrap it around my fingers to make a loop, and then push the working yarn up through and pull. And then again it's going to be a chain 15, 16, 17, 18 for the chaining, or the turning chains. Once you have your 18 chains, 3 of those are the double crochet, and the 4th one is the chain that double crochet is in. So it's in the 5th chain from your hook, you're going to do a double crochet, and then you'll continue double crochets the rest of the way down your row. So I'll count back. You don't count the hoop or the loop that is on your hook. You start right below that and count 1, 2, 3, 4. And in the 5th one back, you're going to do a double crochet, which is yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. So this chain 3 at the beginning counts as double crochet 1. This would be double crochet 2, and you'll go the whole way down. In each of the chains, and that'll end up being 15. So you'll be doing 14 double crochets plus the chain you started. And every once in a while I like to stop and count how many chains I have left so that I don't end up short one at the very end.
I'm sorry, but do you know how many doubles we need to do?
You'll end up doing 14 double crochets.
Then how long the doubles?
Mm-hmm. So again, this first chain 3 that we did counts as a double crochet, so that's 1. And you'll have a total of 15 going down. So the chain 3 and then 14 actual double crochets.
Huge yarn malfunction.
Oh no!
So yeah.
Yes, okay, so to start row 2, it is read this direction. So you do the chain 3, which counts as the first double crochet, and turn. So when you're looking down, you'll follow your chain 3 down, and there's a stitch right at the bottom here, and you don't go into that one because this chain 3 counts as the double crochet coming out of there. So instead you go into the next stitch, and we're going to do a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So when you're counting the chain, you've got the chain is the first one, and then 3, so that's, it looks like 4 double crochets coming across, which is what we have here. Then you're going to chain 3, you do not skip any stitches, you work in the next stitch and you do 3 double crochets in the next, all in the next stitch. Then I wrote in between here, we're going to skip 3 stitches, so in case you couldn't see them, it's 1, 2, 3 that we're skipping. I'm going to chain 1 and do a single crochet. This X is a single crochet. So we're skipping 3, we chain 1 and single crochet in the 4th stitch. And we don't chain over, or we don't yarn over first for a single crochet. So you just insert your hook, pull up a loop, and pull through 2. Then we skip 2 stitches, and above the skip 2 stitches we do a chain 3. And then so we skip 2, in the 3rd stitch we're going to do a double crochet, and then the next stitch is a double crochet, a 3rd double crochet takes you to the end, what looks like the end of the round, except we still had that chain that we started with. And we're going to do a double crochet in the top of that initial chain 3. So you might have to flip it over and find where the top of that was. And if you can't get it under both loops, just get under the one that's closest to you. So right here is where I'm going to be working. Try to focus that a little bit better. I'm going to be working right here in the 3rd chain of that initial chain 3 on the side.
Will we turn it then?
After you do that last double crochet, so that ends up being 4 double crochets to end out your row.
Oh, we only got the crochet.
Yep. and then we chain 3, or chain 3 and turn, or turn and chain 3 to start your next row. And it's the same thing again when you start out the row, that you don't work in the bottom of the first stitch, because the chain 3 counts as your first double crochet. This time we're reading the pattern from this direction. You want to draw an arrow, or again you just look for the chain at the beginning of the row. That tells you that's the beginning of the row, and you read starting from that side. And the row starts out very similar. With the chain 3 counting as a double crochet, and then 3 double crochets. If you have trouble finding that third chain whenever you come back around to it, you could always mark it whenever you first do it, so that it's ready to go each time you get to the end of your rows. Yeah, I would mark the top of the chain 3, so you know where your crochet hook's going to land each time you finish out your row. Okay, so where I am, I've done the chain 3 at the beginning of row 3, and then I've done 1, 2, 3 double crochets after that, and it brings me to my chain 3 space from the previous row. I'm going to chain 3, and then I'm going to do 3 double crochets, and those double crochets are worked around the chain 3 space of the previous row. So we just go into that big hole that's made by the chain 3. I do 3 double crochets in there. After I do the 3 double crochets in the chain space, I do a chain 1, and then a single crochet in the next chain 3 space. So chain 1 and a single crochet in this chain 3 space. Then I chain 3 and do 4 double crochets to finish out the row. So 3 of them will be in the top of double crochets from the previous round, and the 4th one will be in the top of the chain 3 that started out the previous row. And other than the fact that the other direction is written in reverse, so this is kind of like reading it right-handed, this is kind of like reading it left-handed, that is what we repeat the rest of the time. You just continue doing chain 3, 3 double crochets, chain 3, 3 double crochets in the chain space, chain 1, single crochet in the chain space, chain 3 and 4 double crochets, and you just keep turning and doing that row over and over. So I'll do that a few more times. Let me walk around to see where everyone is first. So like I said, this row, the first row of the repeat, it says, I labeled right side, wrong side, right side, wrong side, just because that way when you're flipping back and forth, you kind of get an idea, and that way you know you want your last row that you do to end on a right side, since your double crochets you started with were a right side. It doesn't really make too big of a difference, it just makes it look uniform, since the one side kind of tucks in a little bit more and the other side kind of bumps up. That way your first and last rows are just facing the same direction. But this row is the row that just gets repeated the rest of the time. And it just is kind of a preference if you like reading it from right to left, which if you're a right-handed crocheter, reading it this way will make more sense. If you're left-handed, it'll make more sense to read it this direction. But it's doing the same thing the rest of the time. So we are going to chain 3 and turn. That chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. Then you yarn over, and we're going to do double crochets. There's 3 of them. So here was our first. We skip that first stitch because the chain 3 is our first double crochet. Then we go for the next 3 stitches, double crochets. We do a chain 3, then we do 3 double crochets around the chain 3 space, which is right below where we are. We chain 1, then we move all the way over here to this chain 3 space, which is right before the 4 double crochets at the end. We do a single crochet there, then we do chain 3, and finish the row with 4 double crochets. And then you just chain 3 for the beginning of the next row and turn and repeat that all over again. That is where that's where the fourth double crochet goes.
Okay.
Now when you do your first chain 3 of the row, if you mark that third chain, that's where the fourth double crochet or the final stitch of your each row will go whenever you finish the next row. So what I just finished was a right side. So this is what the right side of your work looks like. You see there's kind of a straight line that goes across the very bottom. Your first row of double crochets is a little bit sunken in. And if you flip it over and look at the wrong side, then your first row of double crochets is kind of puffed up at you a little bit and you don't have that nice crisp line at the bottom. So that's the wrong side, which is what we'll be working on next, and this is the right side. And you will continue on until you reach your desired length. The only thing is, make sure that the final row that we do will be a wrong side that I'm going to show you because it's just a little bit different. So keep going until you reach the right side of your desired length, and then we'll do the last row on the wrong side. That's just slightly different, and then we finish out with one final row of double crochets. So keep working until you have finished a right side, which will look like this, with that first row double crochets kind of sunken back a little bit and this nice clean line going across the bottom. So I want to take a second and point this out because the last few weeks we've been working in the round. So whenever we go to work into a stitch from a previous row, let me single one out here. If this is our stitch, when you're working in the round, your stitch that you're working into is always a little bit in front of your post. However, since this pattern calls for us to flip, the stitch that we're working into is actually right above, if not almost a little bit past the post, because on the so I flipped it. The opposite side, when we worked this the first time through, if we were working in the round, we'd be working right here because we never flip our work, and the top of the stitch is always right in front of the post. But since we are turning our work each time, that comes out to it being, focus that, slightly past the post, which I think might be why you're having trouble finding where to work into whenever we get to this end. So whenever I've just done the single crochet in the chain 3 right here. I'm going to do the chain 3, and then I'm going to start my 4 double crochets that end in the third chain of the chain 3 that we started the previous row. So when I start this, I don't work in front of the post, I work almost a little bit past the post. It's right, if you follow it straight up, it's slightly to the left of the post. And since you're working in double crochets, they're usually pretty loose. It's usually pretty easy to get your crochet hook in. So if you're struggling, double check and make sure you're not working into a chain, because the chains will be a little bit tighter to work into. But that's something, just kind of the more you do it, the more you realize when you're working in the round and you're not flipping your work, you're always working in front of your post. And when you're flipping your work, you're always working a little bit to the left of your post. So again, I've turned my work. I follow it straight down. Here's my post. Here's the top of that stitch. I'm going into the top of the next stitch, and it's just slightly a little bit past the post. And again, we're just still repeating the same row, even though we're turning it. Each time we turn it, it's the same thing over and over again. So I just did the 4, then I chain 3. I do 3 double crochets around this chain space. And if you have trouble finding the chain spaces, as you make them each row, you could go ahead and mark them so that you know where they are. There should be 2 chain 3 spaces for each row. So there's the first one. You jump over and do the single crochet and then chain 3. And then we start our double crochets to end the row, which is you work it slightly past the post. And then there's the other chain 3 space that you just made, so if you need to mark that one as well. My stitch markers are a little unorthodox this week. It's whatever I have laying around. And we end that row with the 4 double crochets. And then that way, when you turn your work, you know that you're going to be working in these 2 holes, these 2 chain 3 spaces from the previous round. Okay, so I have finished on a right side, and I know that because my bottom row is the row that kind of looks like it's sunken back a little bit, and I have this nice straight row where my initial chain went through. Just to compare, this is what the wrong side looks like, where the first row is kind of bumped up a little bit. So I have finished on a right side. I'm going to chain 3 and turn so that I'm working on the wrong side now. This last row, oh, there's my typo for the week. There should be a chain 3 on this side showing that we're starting it. There's always something. So this is our last row, which is on the wrong side. And the only thing that's different with it is it's missing this chain 3 right here. So whenever we do the first set of double crochets, we would typically chain 3 before we do the 3 double crochets, and I'm going to show you down here where we've been looking so you know what I'm talking about. So we're working on the wrong side on this row. We'll do the chain 3, we'll do 3 double crochets, but we don't do this chain 3 here. We just go straight into the next set of 3 double crochets. So let me show you that. So I've done the chain 3 and turn. I'm going to do 3 double crochets. And then typically I would do chain 3 and do 3 double crochets here in this space, but instead I'm going to skip that chain 3 and go straight into the 3 double crochet. And then I do the rest of the row the same way. I still do a chain 1. I still come over to the other side and do a single crochet. I still chain 3, and I still do the 4 double crochets at the end.
And when you skip the chain 3,
Mm-hmm.
you went right into the chain space.
I worked right into the chain space with those next 3 double crochets. What that does, when we usually make that chain 3 space, it kind of sticks up, makes a little point right here, and since we want it to flatten off for this last row, we just skip that so that it already starts to flatten it for us. And that was this wrong side that we just worked, and I put the note there. The only difference is you do not chain 3 before the 3 double crochets, which was what we left off. And then to finish, we're going to chain 3 and turn. Depending on how big your gaps are, everyone's might be spaced a little bit different. You're going to do 15 double crochets straight across. So the way I do them is the first chain 3 counts as double crochet number 1. You do your next 3 just the way you have in all the other rows. Then in the space of this chain 3, I'm going to do 2 double crochets. And this is where, depending on how big your chain 3 space is, you might want to do 3 in there and skip the single crochet, but I'm going to do 2 in there and then 1 in the single crochet. One in the chain 1 space, that's 8 so far, and then I should have 7 stitches left. The first 4 and then the 3 double crochet, so I'm going to do 7 more for a total of 15. And that ends up being 7 that are in double crochets, and then the 8th one goes in that 3rd chain, of the chain 3 of the previous row, just like we've finished out all the rows before this. And then that's it. You just leave a nice tail to be able to weave in and pull it through. And mine seems to come out a little bit here on the end, but it's another one of those, once you get it a little bit damp and pin it down and block it, you can pull it all straight, which is what I did with this one. If you would want to make something larger, every time you finish this 4, you would just add, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You would add 7 more stitches to do a repeat of this. So it'd be like a row of 4, then this row of 4, and then those 7 stitches that you need there to repeat this, which is what this actually had. More than 4. I think this was like 6 or 8, but it's the same, those sideways like squares that go. You just repeat it as many across as you would like for whatever purpose you want, but for a bookmark, this nice skinny works out well. Okay.